Thanks for being here. Today I'm going to talk to you about Angular and more precisely how you can migrate your Angular application from an old version, so like Angular 10, to the most recent one. But before going there, I want to tell you a little story. A bit more than 10 years ago, I went for my first time in a conference. And it was Devoxx Belgium. You never forget that image, trust me. And during this conference, I watched a talk about front-end. To put it back in context, in 2013, AngularJS has had a couple years, but it was still AngularJS, and React was quite new. And the speaker at the time told everybody that, yeah, you're gonna develop your web app, you're gonna write new feature, maintain your web app, but one thing you probably never do is to update your dependency. Once it's written, you forget about it. And today I want to show you that's no longer the case, especially with Angular. There is the tools to do it, and you can do it. My name is LOＩC MAGNETTE. I'm a senior developer for a Belgian consultancy company called LOΗC. I'm also the father of a little, almost 3 years old little girl. And I'm one of the co-organizers of the Belgian Java user group. And you have my social networks down there if you want to get in touch. So let's begin our journey. But before that, how many of you are using a version more recent than Angular 15? Okay, a couple of hands. How many of you are using something between 12 and 15? Is there somebody that's using something older than Angular 10 here? Okay, that's maybe the most useful talk for that today for you. So when you want to migrate your Angular application, the first step that you should take is to go to update.angular.io. And what update.angular.io will let you do is basically select the from version and the to version. And you quickly realize that you can only go one major version at a time. And you might wonder why only one? Because trust me, if you try to go more than one version at a time, you're gonna get some issues, except if your project is perfect and nothing goes wrong, but that's only in dream world, not in our reality. Basically, I did that for the migration, and I had only a warning between Angular 10 and 11, and was like, I'm pretty sure it's gonna go away with 12. Yeah, it went away, but I got like 10 errors that made no sense. So I went back. When you've selected your version, set the complexity of your project, the first step that Angular will give you is to check if you use the right node version. Because depending on your version, you need to use the right node version. And when you do such a migration, you're probably gonna switch between a lot of versions. And please don't do that by hand. Use tools. There is Node Version Manager that allows you to switch easily between node versions. But if you have more than just Node on your computer, you might be a good way to test ASDF that allows you to manage multiple versions for runtimes. So Java, Angular, and other stuffs. So that's your basic setup. Now you can probably start updating. And if you look in the Angular documentation, it will say, just run ng update. Great, all line. But before doing that, I want you to know what's exactly ng update. And to do that, you need to look down in the Angular schematics. You probably are used to Angular schematic if you do Angular, and more precisely to the ng new, ng generate, to generate project, services, components, and things like that. There is all the tools in there. There is an ng add, an ng update, the add to add new dependency, and the update supposedly to update your project. So the focus here is ng update. And if you go look in the documentation what it does, basically, it will describe it as, I'm going to go in your package JSON, look at all your dependency, and for each of those dependency, I'm going to check the package JSON of this dependency, and look if there is an ng update key in this package JSON. And if it's there, I will execute this piece of code. Great, it can do that for me. So let's try my ng update. If you run it, here it's on Angular 17, but even if you're on Angular 10, it's quite similar. It will give you all the package you can update with ng update. And you probably end up with something similar to this, a lot of @Angular stuff. And then you can just run the ng update with all those packages. Here I just put 1, but you could put 5 or 10. It will run the update for all those packages for you. And I would like to say, that's the end, guys. It's easy, you can do it tomorrow. But it's not the case. Because why? As I said, the ng update is looking for something in your package JSON. And to be honest, except for Angular material, I didn't see a lot of dependency that support this ng update schematic. So you need to look in your dependency. And you might think your dependency are like this library. Beautiful, well-ordered, everything is at its place. You don't have duplicates or things that you don't need. But in reality, let's be honest, it looks more like this. Because at some point, if your project has a couple of years, you have dependencies that were there at the beginning that you might not need anymore, or you have dependency you added along the way, and those dependencies have also dependencies and they're similar to something else. So basically, you have a lot of things. So the first step would be, okay, what are my dependencies? And to do that, simple enough, you can run a npm ls --all. And we'll give you the full dependency tree, basically what you are familiar with if you do Java with Maven. You can have your full dependency tree. And if you want more info, you can also use the npm ls and give the package name you're looking for to see, okay, what version do I use and where is it used? With that tool, you can clearly say, okay, I can now do some cleanup in my dependencies. See what's still needed, what's not, because it's easier to remove something you don't need anymore than to try to migrate it. That's something I had during that migration. I took the project, it was there for a couple of years, and I basically thought, okay, if it's there, there is a reason for that. And starting migration. At some point, some library were like, no, I don't want that, or I require this, and I was stuck. And then I look down and, oh, this dependency is never used, basically. It's there, it's bothering me to migrate, but I don't need it. So I just removed it. And I removed a couple of libraries like this. So please, before trying to migrate, just do some cleanup. It will ease your way through the migration. So when you have done that, you could say, okay, what are outdated in my project? And again, npm has a tool for you. It's called npm outdated. And when you run it, it will give you your current version, the allowed somewhere version, so what your package is allow as a version, and then the latest one. The solution is not to take the latest one and replace it in your package JSON. That's the best way to fail. But it at least gives you an overview of what's wrong in your project or what you need to update. And then you're going to start to play with those dependencies. And a bit like a cat with a ball of wool, you will try to update the dependency, and then you get an error. And you're going to pull on the thread and say, oh, there's another issue there. I can fix it. And you're going to go step by step updating all your dependency. If it's the first migration, you will need to discover a bit what you need to update. After the third, you probably know exactly which package you need to update, and it will be quicker. But what's going to happen if you look at your changes, and that's just a fragment of my package JSON, you will have a lot of changes just to migrate from one version to another. And one trick I use when I do those migration is I do some cleanup before migrating. I remove my node models, I remove my Angular cache, and I remove my package lock. Why? Because I don't want anything left from the previous installation, and my package lock here has no meaning. My goal is to upgrade, so I don't want my package lock to say, no, you stay at this version. No, I want to upgrade, please. And basically what's going to happen is you're going to do those RM things, then npmi, and you might get an issue, and then play the same thing again after updating your package JSON. But again, that's still the easy part. When you have dependency, you have some funny thing that can happen. And I say funny because no, I'm not doing it anymore. But basically, I had a dependency, and this dependency was available for Angular 12.0 and for 13.0. But during my migration, I was in 12.1. And the dependency was like, nope, I want 12.0, not 12.1. So, okay, nice. I don't want to play the game again and downgrade to upgrade, or I don't want to jump one version. So how do I do that? And basically, because I knew that was the only dependency still blocking me to migrate, and I was like, I don't want to waste time, I followed the wise knowledge of a little green guy. I used the force, the -- force, basically. Why? Just to say, okay, NPM, I know you're not happy about that, but trust me, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to try that. And so I run this npm I -- to install and say, forget about the version, I know what I'm doing. And basically, it fixed my problem. But again, that's an edge case. You shouldn't do that ever, except if you have something very similar to my case. Don't use the -force everywhere when you have an issue. That's not the way to do it. And then I got some other problems. And those problems were way harder than that. Basically, most of the time I felt like this boat, stuck on the beach and not seeing how to go back in the sea. Why? Because for the first two, I was looking for dependency or piece of dependency that were missing. A component that is missing from one version to another, or basically a dependency that are not supported anymore. And those two problems have different solutions. For the first case where a component went missing, basically, I went to look a bit saying, okay, this component is not there anymore. What can I do? And basically, I realized that the library I was using was basically using another library that provides this component, and at some point decided to stop wrapping this component. So I say, easy enough. I'm going to install this new dependency, check if everything is still there, still compiling and everything. Yeah, looks great. And I went to the application because there was no automated test. Check a bit, is there something that looks wrong, doesn't work as I knew it would work? No, everything works fine. And easy enough, at some point, hey, there is something not working anymore. Because this new dependency was not exactly the same as what was wrapped previously. And because HTML is such a great language, when it doesn't know a tag or a property, it doesn't say anything. Let's just let you go with it. So one thing I learned from that is your tests, you should have it. Write your unit test, your integration test, because that's a safety net when you do migrations. If you have your test, you can go click everywhere in your app where you think an issue should occur, but your tests are there to go check everywhere you don't think about, or where you didn't work, or you didn't know exist, and they will play as a safety net for you. If your tests are green and your checks are good, you're more at ease when you do say, okay, that's ready. I can go on with my migration. And in this case, basically what we had to do is rewrite a bit of code to fix the issue with this component. Let's be honest, it wasn't 10 days of rework. It was like a day. So it's not that bad. But that was the easy solution. The other case was I cannot find a new version for my dependency and it's stuck in Angular 10. And I was like, okay, I went on npm, no more version, no new version. So I say, let's go see on GitHub the project. Let's see if I can find a new version or something. And I landed on this message. Basically, the project was dead since 2021. And since it was stuck in Angular 10, I think longer than that. That's just when they say, we stop doing that, please. So I had two solutions. The first one was the nice one, the great for the community one, was to say, okay, I cloned the repository, and now I'm going to migrate this version to Angular 17 because that's where I want to go, and do all the release for all the versions. But let's be honest, if I need to do that, and then I have a second dependency that does that, I'm going to update every other dependency for someone else, and I didn't have the time to do that. So I fall back on a dirty trick, but it works. I basically clone the repository and copy-paste it in my project. Replace some imports, and it was working. When I did that, I first checked the license. Don't do that without looking at the license. You might get in trouble if you do that without being a bit careful about that. But in my case, it solved the problem. And by looking into this dependency I copy-pasted, basically I looked into it and most of the things there exist in other library, but the goal was to migrate. Then we will refactor and remove and basically return in the last step of the previous problem where we fix things to make it work with the new library. But here the goal was to migrate quickly. And then came the worst one. The problem when I look at it, couldn't find a solution right away or think, okay, I might have something there that I could look at it. And basically the funny part is when I run npm I, everything works. When I try to run the application, I get an issue about something called post CSS. I'm looking through my package JSON. I don't have that. So let's look a bit deeper. I use the good old npm ls and say, okay, where do I use post CSS? And give me a lot of places where it's used. And can anyone spot the issue here? Don't worry, I didn't see it at first either. So yeah, just down there, I have two different versions for the same library. But npm doesn't bother telling you. And basically, I had this good old issue. And for anybody that does Java for a long time, you know then when you have two times the same library on your class path, that's bad. And when I landed on this, I was like, okay, I have an issue there. But before trying to fix it, can I find if there is no other issue like that in my project? Because now I'm worried. And to do that, again, npm has tools for that. I didn't know about that. It's npm find dupes. And what it will do, if you run it on a project, it will check all your package JSON and all your dependency and tell you, okay, there is a conflict. And clearly said, there is a conflict there. So now, when I have strange behavior, I run this because I want to be sure that's not the issue again. So you say, okay, I have this issue. How can I fix it? My first step was, can I upgrade my dependency that's using this old version or downgrade the other one? I couldn't because each of them depending on Angular. One was for the 7, it was the same version of Angular for the 8 than for the 8. So I was like, okay, I cannot do that. As a Java developer, I say, I can exclude maybe the dependency like I do with Maven. That's easy enough. And to my surprise, npm doesn't allow you to exclude the dependency. You have to do with it. Then I find a new npm tools, because apparently there's a ton of the npm tools that I hope you don't have to use, because if you have to, that's probably that you have an issue. And this tool is called npm dedupe. So what it does, with a simple example. You have a dependency tree like this. You have a dependency A with two dependencies, B and C, and both of them are depending on D, but with different version, basically my use case. When you run dedupe, what you will try to do is try to clean up a bit the tree and move this dependency upper in the tree. And you will try to move it as high as possible in the tree. And that way, when npm try to install, it will take this one and not the one down there. If you run the command, basically, the only change you will see is in your package log JSON. It's nowhere else that it changed anything. So that's what I did. I ran this dedupe. And the funny part, I had to do it once, between Angular 14 and 15. After that, no more issues. And let's be honest, I never had before that this kind of issue. And I'm doing Angular since almost 10 years now. So that is new. Just so you know, you can activate this dedupe when you do an npm install. Personally, I didn't activate it because I prefer to know about those stuff when they happen on my project, because they probably might hide some other issue at some point. And that's the moment where I was like, I've done it. I completed my journey. I'm at Angular 17. But let's be honest, it wasn't just good scenery or a nice trip. A lot of time, I felt like this, totally stuck, with no way to find a solution. I would say, okay, I can ask my colleagues. Yeah, I asked them. And most of the time, they're like, never seen that. Or, yeah, I have an idea, but not working. Then you go to Stack Overflow or Google trying to find a solution. Nothing there. And we are in 2024, and I know you have heard too much of AI already. But AI is an incredible tool for this case, because it's an incredible rubber duck. Don't expect the AI to give you the right answer. It does not do that. I would say, if I am optimistic, 95% of the time, you give me the wrong answer. And I'm optimistic there. But what happened, it gave me new ideas, new perspective on things, new things I could try. And because I tried those new things, new idea came up. And when I was stuck, I try again. And because AI can take a part of your package JSON, a full stack as an input, it has a lot more, you're way more able to provide information that might be useful to unblock your situation. So I wouldn't take AI as the solution to your problem, but I would use it as a rubber duck for you when you're stuck and nobody knows what to do. So that's great. I finalized this, but let's be honest, nobody really likes to update its dependency by hand. And it would be great if we had tools to migrate and update our dependency more easily. And those tools exist. There is just two here called Dependabot and Renovate. And both of them are able to automatically check your package JSON and see, oh, there is a new version for that. And you can configure it to say, oh, maybe I can create a merge request automatically. And you could go even further. If it's a patch version and my pipeline is green, merge it automatically. It won't work with ng update. It won't replace ng update. But all your little dependency that lives there and you can try to update automatically, it will do it for you. And let's be honest, nobody likes to just do updates. We prefer to code, to develop new features. So those tools are there to help you. We've reached the end of this journey. And I would like for you to remember three things, but only three. So if you forget everything, just remember those three. One. The first thing is, if you migrate, do it one version at a time. Not more, not less, one version. Otherwise, you will end up in some strange situation, in strange problems that you don't want to face. Doing one version at a time is the best way to say, okay, I have a limited amount of problems and I can fix it. The second one is automated tests. As I said, if you have automated tests, you have a safety net. When you migrate and everything looks fine, there is someone that can check for you, okay, is it still fine for you too? It's not just someone trying to click everywhere in your application, because if you have a large enough application, it will take days for this person to go everywhere and test everything, where automated test is just a few minutes on your CI. And the last thing is plan your upgrades. Because if you say, oh, I won't upgrade this time, I will do next time. And next time you will do the same, because we all like to procrastinate a lot. And there's no issue with that. But if you don't plan it, at some point you will have 10 versions to migrate. And that's the point where you're going to say, no, I won't do it. Leave me alone, we will keep that. And you could say, okay, but what's new in there? I would say a lot of things. Angular is not that different from Java on the point of view of when you upgrade, there is new features, there is improvements that benefits you and your clients, because if your page is loading faster, the client is happier. So there is a lot of stuff, that's a lot of reason to upgrade. And what I do on my current project is every 6 months we do a migration. And when I say every 6 months, it doesn't mean I do my migration the day after Angular release a new version. No, we wait 3 months to do it, because this application is supposed to go in production and we don't want to take too much risk migrating. So if you don't feel the risk, say, I don't want to be on the latest, I want to be one version behind, it's okay. But just plan those updates. Thank you for your attention. The link here is the slides if you want it. There is all my contact, and please don't hesitate to rate and give feedback in the app. I would really appreciate it. And for those who like stickers, there is a bunch of stickers here, so you can grab some if you want. Thank you.